Dr. Brien, what is exactly the Prosperity Index? How do you measure prosperity across such different economies?
Well, our aim is to take a view of the world that goes beyond GDP and to think about what are the foundations that make for a society that allows everybody to have a fulfilled life. So not only looking at the economy, but upstream in terms of institutions. We've just heard a reference to them now, around the quality of safety and security, strength of freedoms, how good is governance, through to levels of infrastructure, trade, for example, business dynamism, but then really also asking, do these resources and the wealth of the economy go to people's well-being? For example, people have good education, good health, good living conditions. So really trying to get that virtuous circle, strong institutions, good economies to good well-being.
Now, what have been the big moves in the index this year? Of course, you publish annually. Have there been any standout success stories?
There have been a few. Interestingly, and just neighbouring Poland, Lithuania in Europe has been the biggest gainer in the last year, showing a lot of improvement and really coming out of the shadow of Estonia, which in the past in the Baltics had been the high flyer. But you mentioned developing countries. Some of the biggest gains overall have been in Africa. Kenya, for example, is the global standout success of the last year. And we saw a good general election, a very definite improvement over previous elections there. But on a slightly longer time frame, Côte d'Ivoire, which had a civil war 10, 15 years ago, has now really got back on track. Corruption is being reduced. But what's really much more interesting is its level of business dynamism, and the regulatory environment for business has been much, much better. And as a result, it's one of the few countries that's come out of the bottom 40. Most of the countries in the bottom 40 are actually falling further behind because they're not getting access to trade. They've only got access to 12% of the global markets with trade deals, whereas Britain and the other major countries about 45%. So, for example, if we think about the supermarket shortages we've seen recently, if countries in the developing markets had better trade access, a few flights from Abidjan and Lilongwe or Nairobi could have sorted out the supermarket shelf problem. So I think one of the things that we're spotting is that we need to encourage greater levels of trade as opposed to having a reliance on aid as being the way to help developing countries.